Hello, welcome to YouTube interview, the effects of the COVID-19 virus on the arts and beyond. My name is Brian Murphy, and welcome. We have a special guest today, and he is going to be talking about sports. Why don't you introduce yourself? Give me your full name, and who are we looking at behind there also, Pat?
My name is Pat Madine. This is my wife, Dr. Renee Mackey,
There you go.
or Lorelei, my son Sam, and Riley.
Yes, O'Reilly, look at you. Yeah, I love that. So Pat, talk about your company, Purchase Officials. Come and give me an idea, a rundown, what you guys do, and that kind of thing.
So we have a very unique niche business where I sell uniforms and equipment to sports officials, and that's about 99% of my business. So a lot of times we get asked if we sell to schools or to teams. It's none of that. It's all the officials that you actually see out on the field for pretty much any game that you watch below the professional level. So college, the biggest time college sports, all the way down to the lowest level of Pee Wee football or Little League baseball.
So, we don't think about in fact, sometimes we get kind of mad at the referees. We can get mad at them. But, how many referees and how many people are there? I mean, how many shirts do you guys produce a year? Well, it's
tough to say how many shirts we produce, but the way I always try to put it in perspective for everybody is if you think about a Saturday in January when every basketball team in the country is playing a game, each one of those teams has at least two referees. Mm-hmm. So I think for basketball alone, there's somewhere over 300,000 referees.
That's a lot.
That's probably as the most because it's got the most.
Did you say 300,000?
300,000, yeah. Football, I don't know the numbers for the two, but if you combine baseball and softball, it's probably about 200,000, and football is probably somewhere around the 100 to 150,000 range. And those are just the three major sports.
So for just the three major sports, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of people being affected.
Yes.
About what's going on right now.
Right.
So
out of work.
Correct. How is this going to affect them in the future? What do you see happening?
Well, we think it's going to go one of two ways. I mean, sports will come back, so officials will come back. We'll start with the drawback first is we don't know how they're going to get trained because like football especially, which is the next major season that would be coming up for us, would start their training in June. Well, if they can't get together for classes, they don't necessarily have a way to train the next batch of football and volleyball officials. So they're working on some online stuff, but there's not really an infrastructure there for it yet. The silver lining for us is traditionally when the economy goes down and people are looking for extra work, they get into or back into sports officiating because it's a good way to make extra money. So I've always said, if you know somebody that wants to make an extra $400 or $500 a month without working very hard, referee basketball because you get a uniform for about $100 and you can work 2 or 3 games on the weekends and 1 or 2 nights during the week. You get to exercise, be around sports. You do have to deal with coaches and fans, but you learn to do that. And then the money's pretty good. And that extra $400 to $500 a month is really without working very hard at all.
Oh, wow. So with your business, I mean, since we've known each other for a little bit now, and I know the last few weeks have been kind of busy. Mm-hmm. This is true. So talk to me what some of the things you've had to do to adjust to this situation.
Well, the first thing we had to do was find we've never had a situation like this where sports have completely stopped. So my business was always fairly recession proof because there's always going to be sports until March 13th. All of a sudden there were no sports and nobody had ever anticipated a complete stop like that. So the first thing we did was to try and generate some cash flows. We did a pretty aggressive gift card sale. We did 20% off gift cards. So got a $100 gift card for $80. And we had a lot of people jump on that, sort of knowing the boat that we were going to be in and knowing it was a good deal for them when sports came back to get some savings. And then really after that, we had been so busy for almost the last 13 years straight. We took a little bit of an advantage of the downtime in sales just to reorganize our warehouse, reorganize our inventory, get a full count done, kind of do a spring cleaning that was 13 years overdue. And the most realistic part of it is we've been dealing with banks, the government, taxes, lawyers, accountants, everybody to figure out what comes next to try and keep my employees, to at least try and get them some payroll, figure out how we keep our cash flow going until hopefully football comes back.
So how many employees do you guys have?
I have 9 employees that are actual full-time W-2 employees, and then half a dozen or so 1099 independent contractor sales rep employees.
As a company owner and as a leader, they're looking up to you, right?
Yes.
I mean, and this is it can be a burden, but it's also a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And to be in that, you have to take it very seriously. And be also a father, and you're a husband. And how have you been able to balance that out in this time that we are in, and we're all in such an unknown place? How have you been able to do that?
Gosh, you don't really have a choice. I mean, the sun sets and the sun comes up, so you've got to continue to move on and do it. I mean, the first few days were much tougher because you didn't know how to feel at all. You didn't know what tomorrow was going to feel like, and then what the next day was going to feel like. But as each day kind of moved on, you sort of adjusted to the feeling, and a lot of questions got answered. And the one thing that sort of helped was knowing that if we all stay healthy, which is a big if, and I know that's a big unknown, but if we all stay healthy, we're all going to be okay. I mean, everybody's first question, staff especially, was how are we going to get paid? How are we going to pay our bills? What are we going to do? And something I've kind of realized over the last week or two, especially, is that money has essentially become valueless. The banks have said we don't have to pay the mortgage for a few months. I don't have to pay our loans for a few months. Car companies are working with them. So all of those payments that were your heavy monthly burdens are gone. And so if one person has way more money than another person, nobody's allowed to go out of their house or do anything.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So, one of my good friends and a former employee of mine has a wife and twin kids, and came in and said, I got to figure out how to live on $500 a week now. And I sort of told him that same thing. I said, look, man, all you got to do is get food.
That's it.
Everything else is out the window. Now, we don't want to be, we don't want to not pay our bills. We don't want to not do that. And that shows that everybody's pretty good, hardworking, and wanting to do the right thing. But right now, everything's off the table. So all you got to do is feed yourself. And
it's true.
Not going to shut the lights off on you. We're fortunate we have a nice place to live, but my employees have nice houses and they're doing okay. So once we sort of got past that, everybody is in this, and we're going to be, again, if we stay healthy, we're not going to have the banks coming after us. We're not going to have our credit scores affected negatively. I mean, we're going to get through the day to day until some things get figured out. And that, once we sort of came to that realization, I think it helped.
Pat, I think everybody who's listening to this, and whenever they are listening to this, they're going to remember those first week, 10 days of the situation. Everybody's going to remember. I remember. Didn't feel very good. Wasn't nice. And we're also going to remember when we felt it, and then we stepped almost next to it, and we looked at it, and we said, we got to move on now. Like, we have to live now.
Right.
And I think that maybe everybody's stepping away is a little different depending where they are financially, where they're living. And but I actually, Pat, your family, who's right behind you, what a support system, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost, I don't think we take that support system for granted, but it's almost like we say, we want it more now. It's like now we're not going to use our support system for granted anymore. We're going to go, not like we did before, but not anymore. And what we value as money might change a little.
Sure.
How we look at money might change. We're going to walk out of here in about 2 months from now and kind of look at each other and as equal.
Again, I mean, it's been said a lot, but we're all in this together. I mean, there's very few things that the entire country has been in it, all in it together. No discrimination, no borders, no boundaries, no really very little safety unless you do the right smart things, which is to distance and stay away.
You know, Pat, you're a philosophical kind of guy. Renee, you can laugh. Okay.
Had a lot of time to think.
That's right. Yes. Good point.
A lot of work right now.
Good point. That's right.
My brain's moving a lot.
I'm sure. So, you know, I think he's made some really good points. I think, you know, there might be some business owners listening to this and really struggling, you know, and you've been in business a long time, and you've waded through a lot of waters to get to the spot where you're at. It doesn't have to be this business, but where you're at now, you have to go through this stuff. And this is unusual, but what would you tell people out there? I mean, I think you've said a lot, but is there anything else you want to say that really maybe can help some of these people out there that are struggling to stand up, I guess?
I don't know if, other than to say it's not your fault. It's not, you know, when this first happened and I knew I knew the night that they canceled the Ivy League tournament. So 2 nights before the NBA is when I had this bad feeling that sports were going to stop. And that was something that has never happened in the country before. Even during wars, I mean, the World War, they still had sports at some level. But so it hadn't happened in forever. But I was trying to think of, I'd had bumps in the business before, you know, where business went down. And so then you look and you reevaluate your business and what are you doing? And I finally, you know, just had to say, there's nothing I did wrong in this. I didn't not send out enough emails. I didn't market the wrong way. I didn't this was something completely out of our control. And once I sort of let go of that, and if you allow yourself to let go of that, it does get you to move on. And it doesn't mean you're going to forget where it is or what you're doing or what's happening, but you know, these are things that are out of our hands. I couldn't have worked harder to prevent this from happening. I couldn't have gotten up earlier in the morning or stayed up later or gone to one more show or sold one more shirt to prevent this from happening. It was completely out of my hands. And really,
that's I like to leave on that note, because I think that point is going to resonate. That you could work 22 hours a week for the last 50 years, and still it's going to affect you this way. It's completely out of control. That's a challenge to it. Mm-hmm. It's very overwhelming, but also it can be almost kind of like take the thing off your shoulders and say, okay, you know what? Take a deep breath. It's okay.
Well, there's been a little bit, I mean, we're not wired to think that way. We're wired to think we can control it all and fix it all and keep it moving. And especially as the owner of the business and stuff, that's sort of how I was wired. And then once I sort of let it go, like, all right, this is out of my hands. Better or worse, I'm having to depend on the government, and it's going to come through, and it's sort of like, okay, I'm going to be able to do that stuff. And there's been a little bit of a relaxing part to it, as weird as that might sound, of just let it go for now. It's going to come back, and we're all in this together.
Correct.
When it does come back, and my family's been a tremendous help. And
your dog too.
Their dog too.
Dog hasn't said a word, which I know the dog wants to. Well, Pat, who is the owner of the Purchase Officials, thank you very, very much for your time. I think that you have a lot of things to say. It's valuable, and I really appreciate you taking this whole moment to do this. It means a lot to me, and it means it's going to mean a lot to a lot of people who are going to listen to this too.
Well, good. I'm glad we had the chance to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And let's keep in touch, okay?
Absolutely.
So, bye, guys. Enjoy your day, okay?
Oh, fine. We've been doing our exercises.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.